So welcome everybody to the EVCO meeting for the month of, what is it again? August. This summer, this whole year has been crazy. So again, welcome, and there's a lot of people here in the room, so it's nice to see more people. We have quite a few people online too, and so the agenda for today. So let's start again the agenda. So Mitchell will start by talking to us about his trip to Europe. So he saw a bunch of different EVs. I got the luxury of seeing the presentation, so it's some interesting cars to talk about. The next point is something I added to the agenda because something came up this late last week. So the OEB issued a bulletin that's very pertinent to people who are trying to increase their service at home, to put a charger particularly, or a heat pump. Okay, so if you're going from 100 amp to 200 amp, they've come up with a bulletin, and you'll see when we get there what that's all about. Then I will talk about heavy duty trucking. So I'm going to talk about all the trucks that exist, and there is way too many. Anyways, so I'll go through some of the models that are out there, some of the features of each of the models. Fairly briefly, because again, there are lots of them, a lot more than I actually thought there were. Just about every company, except I believe one of the main brands, actually is producing electric vehicles. So that's great news, but it means lots of research and lots of slides. Anyways, once we've done that, we'll go to the news with Mike, as we do usually. A lot of interesting news yet again this month. Then we'll go to the past and future events. So we did have quite a few events last month, and we have a few coming up that we want to discuss. So welcome. Yeah, and we have a chair, right? You guys have a chair? Great. Cool. Okay. So Mitchell, if you're ready, do you want to start with your presentation?
Yeah, I can start with that. Everybody can hear me, I guess.
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Great. I'll just let you know when to move to the next slide. This trip to Europe didn't actually happen in August 23. It happened in July of 23, but I'm talking about it in August, so that's why it says August. Want to go to the next slide? This is just an overview of everything I'm going to talk about. My presentation is mostly picture focused, and I'm going to talk with those pictures going on in the background. So main things that I'm going to talk about are the fact that EVs were everywhere. Public charging was a big part of that, and I'll share a couple cool applications of vehicles that I saw during my time there. Next slide. So this was where we started our trip, which was in Amsterdam. And this was just one example of one street in Amsterdam where there were multiple electric vehicles on that street. So I've put little lightning bolts for the different Teslas that are on this street. I can count 4 from this photo. I'm pretty sure there were more further down the street, but I can't see in my photo how many there are. This street is a rough city block. Probably maybe 15 cars on that street, and I'd say this shows 4, it could have been 5 or 6 in some cases on these streets where this street in particular doesn't have on-street charging, and there's still 4 vehicles that I can see, potentially more in the background that I can't. So this is like their first introduction to the city. You can kind of see sort of they just get street parked and they're fine. On the next slide, this was a different city called Utrecht, which is, say, 150,000 people, maybe slightly less than that. And this is in front of the oldest church in Utrecht, and they have dedicated parking for electric vehicles and charging stations for those vehicles. So the photo on the left shows the e-Golf, the ID3, the Tesla Model 3, and I believe that's the electric version of the Volkswagen Up, which is being used in this case as a car sharing vehicle. That's the 4 on the left photo. And then on the right-hand side, that's the electric Kia Niro and the Tesla Model 3, same as the other Tesla Model 3 that's parked behind it. And then a parking lot that's 10 vehicles. This is 6 of them are electric, so pretty good numbers. Next slide. This is also Utrecht, except this is an example where they've included on-street parking for electric vehicles. So in the photo on the left, you'll see the Polestar 2, the Jaguar I-Pace, which doesn't get enough credit for being a cool car, but it was everywhere in Europe. And then behind it's another Polestar 2. This spot only has 2 available spots for electric vehicles, so I don't know how this all works when there's 3 people that need it and there's only 2 spots, but I'm assuming it works out well. I couldn't tell you how it all works out because I didn't sit here to watch it happen, but there's 3 cars for 2 spots. And then this is actually just down the street, not the exact same street. You might notice the fact that that building on the far left in the photo on the right is the same building that's on the far right of the photo on the left. So the same street. And there was 3 vehicles parked at the one side of the street, and there were 3 vehicles that were electric parked on the other side of the street. Again, the ID3 on the left. The middle car, I believe, is a Citroen E something, and a Mercedes EQE, which was parked behind it. So again, 3 electric vehicles, 2 charging spots. I'm assuming they all work it out and somebody gets a charge eventually. This is in Rotterdam, which is, I think, one of the cooler cities that you should go and see if you ever go to the Netherlands. Rotterdam doesn't have as many on-street charging spots, but what they do have is a lot of electric vehicles. So on the right side of the street here, there's 2 electric vehicle charging spots where there's a Tesla Model 3 and the Mini Cooper electric. And on the other side of the street is a Tesla Model 3 and a Mercedes EQA, which they don't sell here, but they should. And I'm assuming also in this case, the 2 cars there that are charging will eventually move, and the 2 cars that aren't charging will eventually come in. And it probably works out in the case where every second day somebody's using that charger and that rotates. But again, I wasn't going to sit here all day and watch these cars move around, so I'm just going to assume that it works. So this is on the topic of public charging, and this is actually a photo that I took of my favorite charging brand that I've been following since they started 4 years ago. And this is the Polestar 2 that I rented to do a trip from Brussels to Vimy and back to Brussels, which is around 300 kilometers. I only stopped here because I needed to return the car with 90% state of charge. I could have done the whole trip without charging, but I felt like I should experience what it's like. And so that's just me. I was the only car at one point, but then when I was leaving, there was an Audi Q8 e-tron, there was a Hyundai Kona electric, there was another Polestar 2, there's an Audi e-tron GT that came in for fun. It was wild. Next slide. I've included just a couple photos of what my charging session looked like. These hyperchargers are actually funded by the European Union. So it's not a Dutch thing, it's not a French thing, it's a European Union thing. And they basically put a bunch of money into hypercharge and hyperchargers. And those are deployed by more than just this company, but these are the ones that seemingly were everywhere. Like you can see on the bottom there, it's charging at 130 kilowatts, doing about, started at 35% in this case, and went to 90% in 30 minutes. Could have stopped at 80%, but I needed to return it at 90% state of charge, or else I get charging fees, which were like €1.10 per kilowatt hour, or something ridiculous. Whereas this was half the price. Yeah. And then the on-street stuff is its own world, as you saw in a couple of the earlier photos, but seems like a lot of plug-in hybrids were using it. So the photo on the left, there's a plug-in hybrid Tucson, there's a plug-in hybrid BMW. Those are kind of the cars you'd see on a lot of those fights. Middle photo are 2 BMW, one is an X5, one's an X3 plug-in hybrid. And then just for sort of recognizing that icing is still a thing, the photo on the right's a plug-in hybrid Volvo, and behind it is an Audi A4 Allroad, or Avant, and as they call it in Europe. This was actually quite common, where I wouldn't say it's 100% of the time, but say 10% of the time there will be a car that's not electric parked there. So even though there's way more electrics, there's way more common knowledge about the fact that they're really for EVs, They still have issues with gas cars that end up parking in spots that they shouldn't. So just for awareness that it's still a thing there too. And then finally on the cool applications, one of the days we were in Paris, we stopped at Versailles and they were doing the last day of the Tour de France. As part of the Tour de France, they have a variety of different sponsor vehicles that go out ahead of time and are sort of getting the crowd excited about what's to come, which are the bikers. But they had a couple of them, probably I'd say maybe half dozen of them, had electric vehicles that were part of their fleets, and they were all done in their livery. Say the French energy company is one of them that had a couple of Ioniq 5s that you can see on the left. And then on the right, even though this sort of truck-looking thing isn't fully electric, it does reduce emissions by 90% because they use something that's basically, I don't know if it's hydrolyzed vegetable oil, but it's basically vegetable oil that's replaced with diesel. So they didn't have a full application of electric, but I thought it was still cool that they were talking about the fact that all these vehicles will eventually go electric. This one just happens to not be there yet. So next slide. And then there was a dichotomy in Paris where they had a whole bunch of Toyota Mirai hydrogen taxi vehicles, because what I learned was that Paris is actually looking to make a fully electric hydrogen taxi fleet for the Paris Olympics in 2024. So there's that. But then they also have a whole variety of Mercedes electric vehicles acting as taxis. So the cool thing that they have is the EQV, which is the electric van, which they should bring to Canada because everyone likes an electric minivan. And this photo has 4 of them in the same shot. So each of these is an EQV, and they were parked outside of that Paris train station, which is Gare du Nord. If you've ever been to Paris, it's the biggest train station in Paris. A lot of sort of the taxi fleet was already electric, and then for some reason they decided to throw in some hydrogen ones for fun. But I think for the most part, everybody will be driving an electric at some point. So it's sort of a interesting dichotomy of 2 different types of technologies that would be zero emissions, I would say. Next slide. And then a couple of special mentions I'd have was I was able to find the Honda E, which is actually very small, but also like the fact that this particular one has the cameras for the side window mirror things. So that's, not all of them were spec'd that way, but this one was, and it was cool to see how such a small car could be made even smaller with no door windows. And then I did see the electric ID Buzz on my last day in Paris. So that's sort of like the style of that in Europe, which I think works really well. The North American spec will be slightly longer, but that's sort of the same appearance, and I thought it looked really cool to see in action driving around in Paris. So I think that's pretty much all I had. I don't know if anybody has any thoughts or questions or things that they wish that I could share, but.
One thought / question I had is that camera that's used as a mirror, that's legal in Europe, I guess?
It's, yeah, so this Honda E was one example of that. There were a couple other cars that weren't electric that had that technology. So it is a technology that's legal in Europe, but that's not available here yet. It should be legal here. It's way better, in my opinion. But it was only probably, I think I only saw 3 or 4 cars that implemented it of all the cars that I saw there. So.
Yeah, there's a few electric manufacturers that wanted to put that on their cars, including Tesla, right, to reduce the drag a bit, right? Mm-hmm. But legality got in the way. Cool. So lots of electric cars. That's cool. When I went last year it was Portugal, Spain, which are countries that are less well off, and there weren't that many electric vehicles, but there were some. I did do a short presentation on that last year. So Anyways, thanks a lot, Mitchell. Any other questions, comments?
Just, I can't tell from the pictures, they have green plates or they just have standard, Dutch plates?
If you want to go back to one of the first slides there,
Just can't tell from, here, from, it's like,
yeah,
that.
so they have a
That
whole
one,
variety of different plates that I haven't been able to fully understand, but I believe it's down to the numbering that defines whether they're electric or not. This EQA is maybe not a great example because that's actually from Germany. If you wanted to go to the previous one where there's a Dutch one,
Right there. Okay.
yeah, so that one works. They, I think, include specific numbers in the middle that identify them as electric, but I haven't really been able to figure it out. And some of them did have a green sliver where the Netherlands symbol is. Instead of it being blue, it was green, similar to what the UK does. But there weren't really any real benefits, I would say, to having an electric vehicle there. Like there's no free parking for EVs and there's no toll roads that you get exemptions on. So the idea of a green plate isn't quite the same there as it would be here.
yeah, I was in Portugal in December 2021 and I noticed that the plates were the same on electric vehicles as everything else. And I'm just thinking, Norway, where they have a lot of incentives for people, and I just don't know what.
Yeah, I was in Norway and saw lots of electric vehicles, but I can't remember if the plates were different. I hadn't noticed.
They might have a code. Right, like when we were in Romania, we had diplomatic plates, but they looked the same as everybody else's plate, but they had two starting letters that sort of identified them as diplomatic to those who were in the know. So they might have something similar.
They might, yeah. In Norway, they do have benefits. They could go in high occupancy lanes and various other things for.
And there's like congestion zones and stuff that they do.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks a lot, Mitchell. Any other questions?
Yeah, I was curious, Mitchell, you said there were lots of hydrogen taxis in Paris. Did you ever see any hydrogen stations? Or I was wondering if you knew how much the cost was of that.
I can tell you that hydrogen was more expensive. I looked this up, but because Total is the supplier of the fuel for the hydrogen taxis, they're basically giving it away for free because they're also a sponsor of the Paris Olympics. So there's no real way to tell what business model there is for that. And the reason they're doing it is because they want to make a case that they should exist past when fossil fuels go away. So none of the hydrogen stations are anywhere near downtown Paris. They're stations sort of,
Right.
where the Paris airport is, it's way outside the city. There's one around the airport, and there's a similar one that's, say, to the east of the city and west of the city and south of the city, but not actually in Paris, because there's no space for a hydrogen fueling station in Paris.
And given
Should
that
have
it's an
included
oil
the,
company.
Yeah,
Yeah, given that it's an oil company, chances are it's probably for methane, right? It's not.
It would be green, yeah.
yeah. I should have included the photo that I had. I shared it in the EV group, but the Shell recharge stations that basically take up like the storefronts of a building. So it's like a 6-story building, but the ground floor is a drive-through charging station for vehicles. It's an interesting sort of way that recharging actually occurs. Because like a gas station would basically, you'd have to demolish that building, put in all the fueling infrastructure underneath it, and then operate it above grade without anything above it because fire. The electric vehicle charging, on the other hand, could just sort of be integrated into any type of building as long as you have space for the transformer, the charging station, and a space for the vehicles to drive in and out. So
Yeah, fueling stations are quite different in Europe because of the restricted space, right? So, so I would imagine the same would apply to recharging places. So cool. Any other questions? No? We did talk last time, I think it was last time or time before, that in the UK, they're closing down hydrogen stations. Because they're not being used, right? Yep. Anyways, that's another topic for another day. Okay, thanks a lot, Mitchell. So next topic is that OEB Bulletin. So Ontario Energy Board, for those who don't know, they are the ones who regulate the energy systems in Ontario. So not just electricity, but gas also. But in this case, it's they came up with a bulletin that clarifies some stuff that some utilities didn't seem to understand too well. So there's three parts to it. I will cover the first and third part. The second part is not relevant to us because it's for new construction. But essentially, I've picked out some of the stuff from the bulletin. And I have to remember what the heck it was again. Okay, yeah, so they want to make sure that the definition of a basic connection for a essentially a single, now this doesn't apply to multi-unit residential buildings. It applies to individual residential customers. Okay, so they want to make sure that the basic connection is standardized across the province and actually includes the capability of having up to 200 amp. Okay, so some of us, including myself, I had a 100 amp panel, even though my house is relatively big. And actually, Sam went to see a house that was much bigger. What was her name's house? Anyways, and she had a 100 amp panel for this humongous house, right? So what's been happening is there's some people who've been wanting to add a charging station and or heat pump, and the utility has estimated that it would cost humongous amounts of money to do the upgrade. So and what they were doing is they were including the cost of upgrading the transformer, which was at capacity. And what they did with this thing here, actually, this is I'm talking about the other part right now. But this basic connection thing is the way the utilities plan for stuff. They should assume that they could accommodate 200 amp for every single individual household. Okay. But here, this is where there was upgrades. Okay, so what happened is there were a lot of complaints from people saying that, they were getting quotes that were ridiculous for upgrading their service. I've seen the guy actually who sold me my heat pump told me that he had an estimate of $19,000 to upgrade service from 100 amp to 200 amp. So that certainly includes upgrading some of the infrastructure that the OEB agrees should be covered by the utility, not by the individual person, right? So it's really not fair that you have to pay for the upgraded transformer when you're the one who just makes it tip over the capacity. This is something that should be shared amongst everybody, right? So they made that very clear. Some utilities had to refund money to some customers. But the point of this and the point of covering this is that we want to remove any obstacle that's there for anybody to do either EV charging. Obviously, EV charging has been a focus for a long time, but same with heat pumps, right? Because having a heat pump will help you further decarbonize your house.
Do heat pumps use a lot more power than air conditioners? Like, I think a lot of houses have maybe ACs, but they don't have EV charging.
Yeah,
So if
yeah.
I already have an AC, am I gonna be good, or is it gonna add additional power to that?
The heat pump is comparable to air conditioner. The reason why you might need a bit more capacity is if you do like what Mike did, where you got a full electric heating system. So even on the coldest day of the year, which happens really rarely, your heat pump needs some supplemental resistive heat. And then you're gonna be drawing big power.
So it's that heat that does.
So because it's inefficient, and I did the exact same thing, so I've got an electric backup, so my heat pump works to -27.
Yeah.
It's colder than that, like it did once last winter. The auxiliary heating will come on, and I think it's a 60 amp breaker sound for that, right?
40 amps.
Yeah, 240 amps and one 15.
And what's your
240 amps, separate 40 amp breakers, and then 15,
Yeah.
full 15.
Yeah,
So that's why you,
so it's like you're not adding a huge amount more load, it's just for the off chance that the backup heat has to run that.
But
pushes
it's
you over the limit.
still needs to be calculated in the.
Yeah, that's right.
Calculation. So unfortunately, and I mean, we have it for the tenant downstairs, we got 3 heat pumps, and we got the cold weathered one.
Yeah.
So it can go down to -35 with no problem. actually the resistive heat didn't kick in yet since we bought the units. So I'm just saying, even when it was minus 40 last year, it didn't kick in.
But it's the like super cautious approach.
Well,
right?
In an electrical way, you have to.
Yeah, no, yeah.
That in your
Yep.
load at 100.
Because it is possible that you would use it, and the code is all about safety and making sure you don't exceed the maximum capacities, right?
But you're not wrong, like theoretically, it should be basically the same.
And what would the PhD have required of the 40, 50, just to 40 or?
Yeah, it actually, the entire unit will probably use around 30, maybe,
20 or 30.
yeah, 20, 30, but it's just in the worst case scenario. It would max out at 32 amps and 32 amps probably for your resistive as well as but the AC would run probably around that 30 amps.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just you can't overload your circuit more than.
And if you already have AC, like Adam was saying, you need to, you could swap it because it's doing AC also, right? So, anyways.
Mitchell has his hand up.
Sure, Mitchell?
Yeah, I was just gonna say in terms of the reason why you need electrical heat isn't because the heat pump needs it. Like the heat pumps nowadays can do minus 30. It's because the Ontario Building Code doesn't actually allow you to have just the heat pump as your source of heating. It hasn't been updated to make it relevant enough for the 21st century. So it's due to be renewed and updated to make it relevant, but it hasn't yet. So that's sort of the reason why.
Cause like my backup heat, even at minus 30, didn't kick in last year.
Yeah.
And the guy that installed it said that he had a client that went 2 years not realizing that their backup heat wasn't connected. Because whoever did it just didn't, like, they forgot to actually connect it.
Yeah, so if you look at the actual, the weather last year, it went down to about minus 30, not minus 40. 40 would have been with wind chill, which doesn't count.
It doesn't count.
In my case, my heat pump goes to minus 27 and when we had the cold weather, the temperature in the house started going down and it was 14.5 degrees Celsius at one point. And we found out through that they had forgot to configure the backup thing. So it had never been used before that. It's the only time it would have been used, right? So it's really, really infrequent. So I would certainly agree with what Mitchell was saying that, do we really need this for the few days where we might, I didn't care if it was 14.5 in the house for a few days. Who cares, right?
Your wife didn't care.
She didn't actually. I know, she didn't.
Kidding.
Because she's as cheap as me, right? So it's.
Alan has a question now.
Sure, Alan?
Hey, so yeah, I've been running ground source heat pump for 16 years now. I do have backup electrical heat. However, I've got it switched off. Like I've got a special connector that'll just ensure that it will never kick on unless I allow it to go on. And then that of course allows me to ensure that I don't have other loads. So I'm running a 100 amp panel with a full ground source heat pump on quite a large 1960s house and and 2 electric cars, and it's not a problem. So
Yeah.
we need to just need to set your expectations and manage your loads and you're fine.
Yeah, good point. And actually, the fact that you have a ground source heat pump means that you should never need the auxiliary power. So again,
well, if you have enough loop, you still have a limitation on a ground source heat pump. You have to have enough loop to cover your heat transfer needs.
Yeah.
But I do have, ours was sized in such a way that for about a week in January, the auxiliary heat will kick on if I let it. So we just put on sweaters and fire up the fireplace. So
yeah, so I could turn the breaker off and that would keep it from going on. Anyways, so the other thing that's mentioned in here is that there may be an upgrade required between the infrastructure and your house. So if it's dedicated to your house, the utility can charge you for upgrading the wires. Okay, so but what they're saying in the point 1, they're essentially saying that when you install anything, you should be always putting enough gauge of wire so you could upgrade to 200 amp if the owner wishes to do so.
The way the hydro wires are gauged is way different from your house. So Very rarely do they need to upsize the wires. Normally it's just a standard, they run 200 amp to pretty much everywhere. And then if you upgrade, they charge you for the service for disconnect, reconnect, but they don't often change that overhead wire, underground wire.
Unless you're in a whole different,
No, even
because like mine, they had to run the wires.
they will change it because they can bill you for it.
Well, no, they, like, it's a physically bigger wire that they run. Like, it's not the,
So you must have had really, really small wire because
I did,
We're talking about replacing obsolete technology here.
Yeah.
No, nobody expected to use that much electricity.
in the sixties, yeah, when my house was built.
Yeah.
but they did when the AC came out.
No, but like all our neighborhood, my neighbors have the same old wire that we used to have for the 100.
You have overhead wire and all
Yeah,
that,
we
so
have
it's a pretty old neighborhood,
Yeah.
it is, so maybe that's.
Yeah, they're all,
Yeah.
I mean,
He's on the hot side of the tracks.
we're on the top of a hill and still somehow flood, so.
There are parts of the city here, they're upgrading taking down the overhead wires and upgrading the underground wires.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's what my heating outside, yeah.
Yeah, anyway, so they made the point that that is allowable, if they need to do that, it is allowable. As long as that wire is for that single residence, so if it's
In most cases,
residences.
it's gonna be under 100 feet.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah, it was.
And if it's more, then you own the post, so.
yeah, but if you have to dig and all that, it could become expensive, which is the point,
Yeah,
right?
because
The other
you
thing-
hydro digging.
Yeah, the other thing they said is that if you happen to be in a situation where that transformer is just for you, you're the only one on the transformer. Excuse me, they could charge you for upgrading the transformer,
Yeah.
but then again, I would doubt they would have to upgrade the transformer if you're the only one on it, right?
Yeah.
So this is good news. This removes a barrier that I thought was a big barrier.
It was.
Like I said before, the guy who sold me my heat pump wanted to put a heat pump in his house, but it would have cost him $19,000 to upgrade the service to be able to do that. So he didn't do it because of that, right? So I did send him the bulletin so he knows about it. Yes.
I see the word should everywhere. Should usually means optional. It's must if it's a requirement. Is this like wishful thinking or is this a new policy that they must apply?
Well, if you read the whole bulletin, they're pretty clear as to, the way it should be done, right? So they don't say must very much, but they clearly explain, here in particular, they actually explain that they, got it here. You see, they had to, where does it say? Was required to refund, okay? So if they were required to refund, it's pretty,
Okay, so it's
pretty much a
not.
must, right?
Rarely do they come out with bulletins saying that hydro has to do something here. When they do, it's because there was a lot of complaints and a lot of pushback. And they won't screw around. They'll do it. They do tons of millions and billions of dollars a year.
So the rest of the bulletin actually mentions that there's, I can't remember the exact number. I think there's 58 local distribution companies in Ontario. So Hydro One is one of them. Hydro Ottawa is another. There's a whole bunch of others around Toronto and all that. And province-wide, there's something like 58. And around 40 of them were doing it the proper way and the rest weren't. And so they wanted to clarify for the Hydro Ottawa, do this thing later.
So this is like effective immediately now?
Yeah.
It's been effective.
You know, I actually upgraded the service at my house anticipating that if other people upgraded theirs on my street first, I might end up being forced into the situation, which is why I upgraded it right as soon as I got the house.
Yeah.
But I didn't have to change the wires or upgrade the transformer or anything.
Yeah.
I just had
Yeah.
like
good
Sam
news-
said, disconnect for a day, electrician rewired and it's done.
Yeah, the good news is your neighbors, if they want to do it like you did, they won't have any extra costs, right? So that's good news for everybody, right? Okay, any other questions about that? Okay, cool. So I want to talk about heavy duty trucking a bit. Like I said earlier, there are a lot of models. So I'm not gonna spend too much time on every model, but I'll give you a pretty good sense of what's out there. And I've got a few stats on most of the models to give you an idea, what kind of range they have, the weight they could take and all that, right? So the reason I wanted to talk about this is I saw a few news items talking about lots of electric trucks in Europe. And we'll see that this is from 2021. This is sales in 2021. And the total here, we're talking a few hundred trucks in 2021. Of course, 2022 and 2023 would have, I'm sure, higher numbers because most of the trucks that you're going to see in the next slides have been introduced only in the last couple of years. Some of them aren't available yet in large volumes. The Tesla Summit being the best example of that, right? So, so you see Switzerland for some reason's got the highest number, and Norway's is in second place. But anyways, lots of trucks being sold. This is worldwide numbers, and this orange that seems to, wipe out everything else. That's China, and for those of you know a bit about what's been happening in China, a similar thing happened with electric buses, where they were subsidizing them heavily back in around 2017 and 2018. So there was a lot of them deployed, but still, if you look here in China, 2017, 80,000 electric trucks were deployed, right? Were bought. That's a lot of trucks, right? Starting to be a good dent in the market. And if you look at the sales share, right now, so in 2022, about 5% of the trucks worldwide are electric. Of course, China is the biggest part of that still, but you see the blue there is Europe. So the blue part is Europe. The other part there, United States, is green, and yellow is everybody else, including Canada, right? So, so for the U.S. or Europe, we're talking somewhere. I think it's about 2,000 to 3,000 trucks per year at this point, something like that. A few thousand, anyway. So. Numbers that are growing, but and I expect them to grow quite a bit more over the next years. When you see all the trucks that are available, you'll see that there's plenty of room for growth. I haven't looked at any of the Chinese electric trucks, okay, or Indian. In India, I don't think they have that many, but obviously in China they have a lot. They're probably all local brands, or for the most part local brands. It wouldn't be the Daimlers of the world doing electric trucks in China. Okay. Before you look at individual trucks, of course, that's an electric truck right there, but it's a charging station. And what they've done is they have the first corridor. So what they've been doing with this corridor is they have one of the most heavily traveled route that's traveled by heavy duty trucks. Where they're putting chargers at regular intervals, right? They're relatively low power. They're 300 kilowatt, which is not super fast. And we'll see that the import of that when we look at charging times. But at least it provides an infrastructure that will get the ball rolling, right? So as soon as we have enough chargers, and I've been advocating for this in Canada, I'd like to see an EV, a heavy duty EV corridor from Windsor to Quebec City. So that we could start having some trucks on the roads, right? So there are very few electric trucks right now in Canada. This one is a bit of an oddball. Caterpillar is also doing stuff like this. But this is a 240-ton truck. If we've seen previously in another presentation at some point, we talked about a truck that's in a mine in Switzerland where the mine is on top of the mountain. And the processing plant is at the bottom. It's a gypsum mine. And they actually, on the way down, they charge more with regenerative braking than what they need to bring a empty truck back up the mountain, right? This is not quite the case, but what they've done here is they've got a 1.4 megawatt per battery in this truck. So it's very large battery. But if you've got a truck of this size that takes 240 tons of payload, a few more tons of battery won't make that much difference, right? Okay. But anyways,
if you take into consideration the engine and the axles and everything, the weight of it that you're taking out, you can put a ton of batteries and still be
literally a ton, because the engines actually weigh multiple tons. They're large diesel engines that weigh multiple tons. So. So I've separated this more or less into different groups of companies. And Volvo, I'm pretty sure Volvo has other brands under their wing. I know that they have, I believe it's New Flyer. Is it New Flyer or New Flyer, right? Is that owned by Volvo?
No, it's Nova.
Nova, you're right, Nova.
makes the wagons, like dual wet wagons?
Some radio. That's, yeah.
Nuclear makes the,
City buses.
the bus itself.
Yeah.
They'll make, regardless of what, power plants you put in it.
Yeah. So the electric buses we have in Ottawa, the 4 that we have, and one of them was at Pride on Sunday. Covered with the Pride library anyways, so they were made by New Flyer and.
You know, I haven't had a ride in one of those electric buses yet.
Yeah, no, I seem to see them all the
I've
time.
seen them around, but there's 2 on Route 7, which
Yeah.
I travel quite a bit. But I'm always going this way when they see them coming this way. And then there's I think
Yeah.
a couple on 19.
So there's 4 on the roads right now, and anyways, here I'm gonna talk about trucks, not about buses, okay? The buses is a whole different story. So Volvo, they have the Volvo brand, which is very well known, right? It's not the same Volvo as a car company. They've been split off.
Also Packard.
No, Packard is a different one. Packard, we'll talk about Packard. And
Volvo Penta.
those are marine, but that's, I
Correct.
think it's yet another company, no?
Then they also have Renault. Nova Bus, like you guys said, the
Yeah.
trucks,
They have Renault trucks then
Yeah.
probably, right? So I missed that, okay?
and some
There's a
I never heard of.
Scania?
And
No. No, they have Renault, Rock Back
Okay.
and Park Boost.
Anyways, you'll see there's some names that we're less familiar with. If you've traveled in Europe, you'll see some of the names are more familiar, but Volvo and Mack are very well known in North America. Actually, Mack is North America alone. I don't think they're sold anywhere else.
And a lot of these companies have joint development agreements with other companies.
Yes.
So you'll see Volvo have agreements with Toyota and a couple of other companies. Most of them have agreements with Cummins and
And actually, for the drivetrain, there's the traditional diesel engine manufacturers, so Cummins and those people. They have electric motors also.
Eaton works on.
Right.
Terry has his hand up.
Gary, question?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that those large mining trucks are diesel electric, from what I understand. I saw a documentary on them. They've got an electric
No.
motor already.
Well, yeah, not the one that I showed the picture of, but you're right, the typical large mining truck, the motors that are propelling the truck are electric, but they have a diesel engine to make the electricity.
It's like a locomotive.
It's like a locomotive, exactly. It's the exact same principle, right? So, so if anybody has any doubts about the electric motors being strong enough or, having enough.
Locomotives have been electric for like half a
For a
century.
long time, yeah. And those trucks are also electric. The bigger ones are electric, the smaller ones aren't. So anyways, let's get on to Volvo. So Volvo, so Mack, we'll talk about Mack first. They've got 2 models that are available. The ranges are fairly short, 140 miles to 230 miles, which is not that bad. So that's the.
Was that in real measurements?
In real measurement?
Real metric?
I
We
did.
don't do miles here. I don't know.
I didn't do the trend, there's so many numbers, you'll see that I didn't bother.
How many miles did you say?
Either 240 if there's 2 batteries, or 140 if there's 2 batteries, or 230 if there's 3 batteries. Sorry,
Sorry.
kilometers, it's for, over 400, not 400 kilometers.
Full distance. Yeah.
Mostly
Under 400.
Yeah, it's a pretty good distance.
A mile is 1.6 kilometers. That's the.
Actually, I think I mixed up the numbers here. Actually, this part here, okay, the MD Electric, the top part, class 6 and 7 is not this truck. It's a truck on the next page. No, it's a very different version of this truck. Okay, sorry. There's so many trucks, it's very confusing, but they have class 6 and class 7 trucks. So when you send the pictures, a class 8. Okay, so depending on the numbers, depending on the truck, there's different payload numbers and different range and all that. One thing I noted here is these are produced in Virginia, okay, so they're made in North America, they're not made anywhere else, right? So, next one that they have, which actually this has been on the front page of a few newspapers, they have an electric garbage truck, which is.
Yeah, New York City's using those.
Exactly, that's really, I think, the reason why they've been so noticed, right? Because New York is actually trying that. They don't have much of a range, right? So the range is up to 100 miles, right? Miles here. So 160 kilometers. So in Ottawa, for those who know the garbage situation in Ottawa, there's a bit of an issue with the fact that our garbage dump is at the other end of the city, right? So I'm not sure if 160 kilometers will actually work in Ottawa. But it's probably not far from what we need, okay? So I'll try to go fairly fast for all these because there's a lot of them, okay? So Volvo, they've got a bunch of different options. This is supposed to be city to city. You'll see this is 44 tons maximum, 300 kilometers, okay? This is the FH series. They have the FM series. Oh, 44 tons, 300 kilometers. Supposed to have a different usage, but I'm not too sure exactly what. I didn't look into the specs enough. To me, they look very, very similar, and all of these have sub models, right? So there's probably like 50 models of Volvo electric trucks you can buy. You go back to the FH.
Nice.
One might be a day cab, just might be.
Yeah, what's that?
It might be, but I thought the other one was day cab. Anyways,
Yeah.
they seem to have it seems to be like GM before, where they had all sorts of brands, you know, like Chevrolet, Cadillac, and all these other brands, some of which don't exist anymore. So if you look here again, 44 tons, 300 kilometers, it's the FMX.
But that's a straight body, so you put like a dump truck on it.
Yes, so this one is meant for urban construction, right? So it's meant for things like dump trucks and probably cement trucks and garbage trucks and other stuff like that, right? There's a lot of different things you could put. This one here is supposed to be a smaller vehicle. Capacity is a bit lower, 27 tons. Range is a bit lower, 275. So this is the FL. And again, this is a specialized thing at the back.
And we have our word of the day, capacious.
Capacious, yeah. That's what they say. They say it's compact but capacious. I've never seen that word before. But anyways, that's what their website says.
Capacious, that means off the room.
Yeah, this is not the FL. There's FL and FL here. It can't be the same thing. I've got the wrong name here, but this one comes in garbage truck model, among others. It's supposed to be for door-to-door deliveries, right? So picking up and delivery. So it can have different boxes, up to 16.7 tons, 450 kilometers. So if you have a garbage truck like this with 450 kilometers of range, that would certainly work in Ottawa, right? So you see kilometers here? You see the front is flat?
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody knows about that, but the trucks in Europe have a flat front. And the ones in North America have usually a pointy front, right? The reason for that has to do with regulations for the maximum size of trucks in Europe that requires them to have a flat front. Otherwise, they would exceed the length of the, but anyways. In Europe, essentially every 18-wheeler or it's not necessarily 18 wheels there, but every heavy transport is flat at the front, right? So there's even more. So these are in North America, these ones, okay? You see they have pointy noses, these ones. So ranges of 275 miles. So again, 400 and some kilometers, which is not bad. 90 minutes to charge 80%. 440. 440, that's pretty good, right? That's getting to be useful mileage for pretty long distances and does up to 82,000 pounds. So for those who don't know, the maximum you could haul in the States anyways is 80,000 pounds. If you're electric, you're allowed to haul up to a total of 82,000 pounds. You get 2,000 pounds extra. MAN is a company in Europe also. I don't know if they belong to some consortium, but
Volkswagen Group on something.
yeah, I think you're right. Actually, Volkswagen Group probably has others anyways.
Oh, yeah.
Scania is Volkswagen.
Probably, yeah.
I've got Scania later.
We live in capitalism, everything becomes monopoly.
And there's so many options. So you see one here is missing there. So there's different options for the truck. All sorts of different things. Here, the way they say it is you could have daily ranges between 600 and 800 kilometers. What they're saying here is that because you have break times, and in Europe, they're mandated break times, right? They're fairly frequent. You can use a break times to charge, so that gives you more range. That's the way they figure it out, right? And they're saying that higher ranges will be possible in the future, right? And again, all sorts of different options just from that manufacturer. Now, Daimler, these are the brands that they have. So they have Mercedes-Benz trucks. They have Freightliner, Thomas built buses here in North America. They've got Western Star. They've got Fuso, which I believe was Korean or Japanese originally.
It's the one IKEA has, I think, right now.
No, IKEA is
Is that Fusos?
it's Lyon.
Oh,
Yeah, there you go. There's Badat Benz, which is an Indian builder that they probably bought. And this, I don't know how to pronounce it, Rizon or Rizon, I'm not sure. It's a new company they need for electric trucks in North America. So I don't know why they would have done this or anything, but anyways, it's a new company that's just electric trucks. So this is an example of their truck. They have 4 different trucks available. They're relatively small capacity, so 16 to 18 tons. Ranges from 75 to 155 miles, okay? We're back to North America, so the numbers are in miles, right? Because of the American market, right? So that's them. Freightliner, they've got the E-Cascadia. You see the front nose here. Freightliner, I think, is only sold in North America also, not in Europe. Up to 250 miles of range with about half a load, and but it could take up to 82,000 pounds. So 2 different batteries, 315 or 475 kilowatt hours. Okay. So there's even more trucks. So this is like going up north and there's trees after trees after trees. When you tell your trees, there's more trees. Well, there's more trucks after trucks. So this one here, I don't have the specs, but it's similar to the other one because it's also a Freightliner. Mercedes-Benz, they've got E-Actros, a few different models. This is the smaller truck. Class 6 or 7, and maximum speed 89 kilometers an hour. It's a bit of an issue,
it's a European thing.
right? But 330 to 400 kilometers of range, which is pretty good, right? If we look at the bigger ones, so the E-Actros 400 long haul, forget about all the numbers here. Sometimes it's inconsistent, but one thing that's interesting is it's using LFP batteries. Okay, instead of NMC or some other chemistry. So range of 330 kilometers to 400, and volume production is planned for next year, 2024. Okay, so yeah. Then there's the other Mercedes-Benz, the E-Econic. I don't know if I have to call it that way. Maximum speed of 89 kilometers an hour. I did mention here, this one is also, I think, maximum speed of, maybe not. Okay, I thought it was also. But this one here is maximum speed of 89 kilometers. And
That must be like a regulation for cities, like urban trucks or something.
yeah, it might be, I don't know. The range is very small though, 100 kilometers, which is.
Yeah, that has to be a last mile European city
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, for some applications, 100 kilometers is more than enough, right? So the other part of Daimler is Thomas built buses. So they have the Julie electric school bus. And it has 130 miles of range, so that's about 200 kilometers, which is pretty good. And it takes 3 hours to recharge on a 60 kilowatt DC charger. So again, we've talked about this before, where these could be good platforms for vehicle to grid, because you've got a relatively large battery, 226 kilowatt hour, for an asset that's not used for several months of the year when we have our peak loads and all that. So it's a great release to do vehicle to grid. Western Star, nothing.
Not surprising.
Western Star is has a reputation of being a really rugged guy, so the muscle car guy type of thing, truck. Okay, so it's so they don't have anything electric at this point. I eat backwards. Okay. So next one is PACCAR, which Sam mentioned earlier. They actually have a plant in Montreal. I don't know if they still build trucks there, but they were building trucks for a while. DAF is a European brand that they own. I think it's from the Netherlands or something. Or Germany or something. And they have Kenworth and Peterbilt, which are North American brands, right? So DAF, they have the XD electric, and it's got up to 350 kilometers of range. Right, so you could put a box on that thing, pretty big battery also, 141 to 282 kilowatt hour, right? Then So that was DAF. It's only DAF electric vehicle that they have. Kenworth, they have a number of different options. I think they have two. Had the torque, it just, so I've looked at, because the torque on all these is really, really high. Range of 150 miles, not that much, right? Pretty big battery, but not a huge amount of range. So one wonders if they could improve that over time. They probably can, right? So this is a smaller truck. So there's two versions, a 270E and 370E, and up to 200 miles of range. So the 270E is a class 6, the other one's a class 7. So okay. Then there's Peterbilt. Peterbilt's got 3 different lines. A whole bunch of options within those lines, right? But bottom line is 150 miles of range, 80 to 100. And this one's got 3 options, either 100, 150, or 200 miles of range, okay? So, intermediate range, not very long range trucks, right?
They all still look like they're still from the 70s.
Actually, yeah, they do, eh?
Yeah,
Except this one looks like a Neon truck, I find, right?
So that middle one.
But this one,
Right up.
yeah, the 60s even,
Yeah.
I'd say, yeah. Anyways, this is, I think this is the last one. No, it's not the last one. Okay, Scania, which I think is part of Volkswagen. I've forgotten about Volkswagen. So this one does up to 350 kilometers with 64 tons, or 250 kilometers with 40 tons of payload. No, it's the opposite. Sorry, I got that wrong. It's the opposite. It's 250 kilometers with 64 tons, and more 350 with 40 tons. So reasonable range, right? And we'll take up to 64 tons, which is more than the 82,000 pounds. That's 120,000 pounds, right? Or more, 128,000 pounds. And they also have trucks that are classes 6 and 7, which I don't illustrate here. So the very last one. About time to get to, so there were a lot of trucks, okay? A lot of trucks. So, you know, like I said, Western Star is the only brand that I saw that does not have anything electric. So the Tesla Semi, we haven't seen it in large numbers yet. There's rumors that they're producing something like 10 a week or something of the sort. So they're trickling out. Tesla's intention eventually is to produce 50,000 of these a year. That's their plan. We'll see how that goes, right? But if you look at the specs, they have 2 different batteries with a range of 300 miles or 500 miles, which is 800 kilometers. So that's starting to be really good range. And they will carry the maximum 82,000 pounds. And they say it will recover 70% of this charge in 30 minutes. So, and it's also quite efficient, right? So they don't say how big the battery is.
It's about 900 kilowatt hours.
That's calculations.
Between 900 to 1,000.
Yeah, that's based on calculations people did based on this and the range and all that, right? So that's just a guess, but that's probably pretty accurate, right? So it's a fairly large battery. Yeah, so that's the.
Someone didn't have their hand up, but I think they put it down.
Okay. There was one truck too many when they put it on.
Too many trucks.
It's gonna be interesting to see what happens in the next several years, because all the trucks we've seen from the other companies so far, everyone except Tesla basically, really gives me the same vibes as what we saw 6-7 years ago of all the compliance cars, like Ford Focus EV, Kia Soul EV, which I drive. And you know, they're all on their legacy truck platforms. And the reason the Tesla Semi can cram more batteries in there and is more efficient is because, I mean, look at it, it's more aerodynamic. It's built from the ground up as an electric truck.
Yeah.
You know,
Actually, one truck that I forgot.
so far ahead of the others.
Yeah, one truck that's been high profile, which I forgot to mention, and I'm surprised that Dave didn't say anything. It's Nikola. They do sell their electric truck. They've been ordering for quite a few.
They just got an order for 200 fuel cell powered.
Fuel cell powered?
Fuel cell powered.
Because they haven't produced very many fuel cell trucks.
No, they've been a lot of electric on the battery electric.
Yeah.
Up until now.
Yeah, because
They're starting the fuel cell truck. And they had, they had a recent fire. One of the battery electric trucks caught fire. And they pinpointed the problem as being in the battery pack. And supplied by a particular manufacturer. So they got a recall All their battery powered cars, their trucks, I mean.
Yeah, all like 18 of them.
No, there's more than that. There's a couple of-
Nikola, they didn't ship that many.
There's a couple of hundred at least.
But the powertrain they have is from Proterra, and Proterra just went bankrupt. So that will probably impact Nikola.
Yeah.
But it's still talking small.
But this doesn't affect the batteries on the fuel cell trucks. So it's not.
Yeah. Tommy, you have a question?
But I don't make trucks, I mean, I don't make buses or school buses.
Thomas built.
I
The name of Thomas built implies that you do, Tommy.
Maybe you should
Yeah.
make some electric school buses.
Literally got your name on it. All right, time for the news. So we will start, speaking of compliance cars.
Quick question.
Oh, go ahead, Alan.
Well, I was just noticing that I think the companies that aren't so much compliance vehicles like the Volvos, there seems to be, a lot of design choices that they've made there, but it's still surprising that they're not more aerodynamic to squeak out that range. And
No,
it's, maybe part of it is that, in Europe they have to have the flat front, but they should be able to do some things there to improve the aerodynamics.
Yeah, I think it's just early days, right? They'll probably figure it out eventually.
The flat front doesn't really make a lot of difference in there, and then the other truck.
No, it probably does.
But highway speeds it would eventually. Yeah. Because it's,
Does the
Anyway.
transport trailer have any aerodynamics to it? Or?
no, but the cab sort of reaches over the trailer to give it some airflow.
Yeah.
And then they can, like a lot of trucks nowadays, the trailers have boat tails to sort of help with the aerodynamics.
And the
But
other,
that applies to any truck, right?
any of the other
In the
highway
bottom,
trucks
yeah.
have deflectors to.
Yeah.
To blend the.
So
Yeah.
even the diesel trucks are working on aerodynamics just to make it more efficient, right? All right, so everyone agrees that the Mazda MX-30 is the worst EV in the market. And it will no longer be in the market in the US as of next year, although for some reason it still is soldiering on in Canada. Because we apparently are buying them for reasons that I still don't understand. So in the first 6 months of this year, they sold 66 in all of the US. It's only for sale in California. And even California was like, yeah, we don't want these cars. So they only sold 66 of them in California, but Canada, for some reason, sold 314. And I know Dilawri has like 9 of them. So
What is the brand?
it's the Mazda MX-30. It is objectively the worst EV on the market. Lawrence?
Yeah, I can probably tell you why they're selling here. It's because manufacturers aren't allocating any of these to Canada, so.
So they're being available, yeah.
Especially like, I've never seen one around here, but I know they're selling in BC where gas prices are insane.
Quebec,
Have
too.
no-
I've seen some around here.
Yeah.
I've seen one.
And the reason I say it's the worst EV is because it has a 35 kilowatt hour battery, which gives 161 kilometers of range, but they're asking $42,000 for it,
And
starting, which is
with
insane.
charging,
And the charge speed is, I didn't even put it up there, it's atrocious. So
yeah, it's ridiculous.
it's like slower than a Leaf, and the Leaf overheats. It's ridiculous. So anyway, and it's not even a 4-door car. Like you'll see, it has suicide doors in the back, so it's like a 2.5 door car. It's crazy that this is even a thing. But whatever.
It would have been great.
It would have been great in 2011 when, yeah. Anyway, moving on. We don't care about that car. EV5 has been revealed in a sneak peek by Kia. You remember last month we talked about the EV9. This is the smaller sibling. The EV9 is like a 3-row enormous 7-seat SUV. This is the one that they put in the dryer and then shrunk it. So it's a 5-seat SUV that looks exactly the same, but it's just smaller. They're going to have a big EV day in October. So we'll find out more about it then, but this is what it looks like because some pictures already leaked. So they decided to just come out with it. So I think it looks good. Pretty cool. Filling out that product line. Kia and Wallbox have partnered in the US to offer the EV9 people vehicle to home, so V2G, V2H capabilities. V2G depends on your utility, but V2H is doable. So that's what they're going to work on. Basically, it offers 11.5 kilowatts of AC power that it can backflow to your house to run major appliances and everything during a blackout or island your house during peak times, stuff like that. You can do arbitrage and all that. So that's pretty cool. Can everybody mute themselves, please? I hear noises on the microphone. But yeah, so second gen Quasar 2 home charger, and they'll be available the first half of next year. So that's pretty cool. Mute your
No, it's. I haven't muted it, then the pushing.
Yeah, we got an echo here. Hang on. We're gonna have to cut this. We're good?
Oh, there.
There we go. Okay, carrying on. So Ottawa and Quebec City, so when I say Quebec, I mean like provincial Quebec, the provincial capital, are contributing $500 million to a new Ford plant. So they can't find money to like, do flood repairs, but they can give $500 million to $1 billion multinational. So there you go, whatever. Anyway,
You're not bitter.
I'm not bitter. Also, there's like fires in Northwest Territory. Anyway, whatever. We're not going to talk politics. So there's going to be a new plant in Battery Valley in Quebec that Ford is building. It's 1.2, where tax money is going to pay for half of it. They're going to provide a whopping 345 jobs. So cool. And it's in partnership with SK Innovation. So like this will feed their like EVs are good. So yeah.
So part of the problem here is like the Volkswagen battery plant
Yeah.
and Stellantis, we have to compete against the IRA.
We have to compete against the Americans. Yeah.
And it's forcing us to give subsidies or.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can take it from the oil industry this time. Yeah. All right. So GM is also going to support bidirectional charging. There's a pattern here, you see. In a minute, Raymond. So they've announced that by 2026, all of their lineup will have V2H ability, starting with the 2024 Chevy Silverado, followed by the Sierra, which is just a rebadged Silverado. And then the Blazer, Equinox, and Lyric will get it next year as well. And you'll be able to run your entire home off of your car. Raymond.
Sorry, I just want to say something. So I don't, you don't have it in the news, but California has actually mandated that every car sold in California have
V2H, V2G.
By probably 2026 when they're going to come.
Probably. I mean,
So everybody else is going to be doing it, which is great news.
Which is great. So Tesla, you're on notice.
Yeah, Tesla said they would do it. Yeah.
Sam.
They acted.
Just want to point out, you said it's gonna power your whole house. Right now, they're at the 50 amp range.
Yeah.
So it's gonna.
Within reason, like it's their marketing speed, right? So it'll be some of your house, but a lot more than currently, which is nothing. So that's pretty cool. So GM's on board, Kia's on board, Hyundai obviously will be on board as well as Kia. So that's cool. All right, so Fisker had a big announcement at the beginning of the month this month, August, where they announced 3 new cars. I'm not going to cover one of them because it's a hand-built Halo car that nobody cares about. Well, I mean, some people care about it, but it's not Halo the game. It's Halo as in like top of the line, aspirational. You'll have posters on your bedroom of it. We're not going to talk about that. It's called the Ronin. You can go Google it if you really care about it. It's going to be $250,000 and whatever. The ones that we care about are the affordable ones, and we'll start with the Pear SUV. Pre-orders are open, so you can go to Fisker's website right now and plunk down like $200 or something and reserve your spot in line. They're expecting it to start at 30,000 US, so whatever that is in Canadian dollars, around the cost of a Mazda MX-30. It's going to be built in Lordstown, Ohio. They already have a factory there, which they might have actually bought from, what was that, Lordstown Motors? So that might actually be producing real cars. The specs haven't been released yet, but it'll seat up to 6 people. There's an optional like front bench, which may or may not pass Canadian regulations. Deliveries begin in 2025, and it's going to have the NACS standard because Fisker is adopting NACS. So this is a really cool car. It's aimed at millennials for whatever that means. Not that millennials have houses or money to buy cars like this, but whatever. But it's going to be their entry-level car. And yeah, that's the Fisker Pear. And then the other Fisker that we care about is the Alaska, which is a pickup truck. It's going to be 45,000 US, so a little bit more. It'll have 540 kilometers of range. Also deliveries in early 2025. The bed is kind of cool. It does this like, they have the mid-gate thing like the Silverado. So you can get like a normal 4.5 foot bed, but the mid-gate can go down and you can, 8 foot. You can get a piece of plywood in there basically is what they're aiming for. It'll have 2 battery pack options. You'll have a 75 kilowatt hour for 365 range, or the 540 is 113 kilowatt hours. So not bad. Pretty aerodynamic. It does have a front trunk for tools and whatnot. Looks pretty cool. And yeah, next year, you pre-order it now, deliveries again in 2025 with NACS. All right, GM, and now at the other end of the spectrum, which isn't quite a Halo car, but enough people buy Escalades that I don't want to talk about it. The Escalade IQ. So GM has officially made their like electric things end in IQ, so like Lyric, Celestic. Escalade doesn't end in IQ, so they have to add it afterwards.
Escaladic.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks.
Talk to your doctor.
It'll have V2H, right? It has Crab Walk, but they're renaming it something for Escalade people because it's like rappers that buy this usually. And so it's like a rival mode they call it or something. So you can like slide into the DMs by going parallel or whatever, perpendicular. It's ridiculous, but whatever. It'll do 0 to 100 in under 5 seconds. It has 800-volt architecture. It'll tow 8,000 pounds, and it starts at a measly 130,000 US. So if you want to remortgage your house, you can buy a house on wheels.
Sign me up for 2.
Escaladic. We'll call it that now. It's now forever the Escaladic.
Is it still V2H if you live in it? Technically, every.
To afford it, you have to live in it,
Exactly.
right? There you go. Look for your next rap video to have this. So anyway, that whatever. People, as long as they electrify, who cares? Lamborghini has their first EV. They've revealed it. It's in the background there. It's called the Lanzador. It's a 4-seat supercar that is definitely not an SUV, although it kind of looks like it's got a front trunk and all-wheel drive and 4 doors, so it's very suspiciously SUV-ish. But don't tell Lamborghini people because they'll be like, not a real Mustang, right? It's like a Mach-E, whatever. Anyway,
Lamborghini does have an SUV.
there you go, and it looks horrible. I saw one in the parking lot a while ago. My God, anyway, this looks a lot better than their
Looks for
SUV.
an SUV.
No, this looks better for an SUV. Anyway, enter production in 2028. That's all we need to know about this. Honda is adopting NACS, kind of because they have to. They don't actually have an EV in the market yet, still. And the one that they are going to come is the Prologue pictured here. That's for North America. They do have some in Europe, but this is the North American one. And the reason it's going to have NACS is because GM has NACS. And it's built on the Ultium platform, so they don't really have a choice in the matter. GM's going to put NACS in their platform, and Honda's just going to accept it. So that's why Honda's got NACS. But it'll take place at the same time as GM's switch, which is 2025, like everybody else. This will also apply to the Acura ZDX, which is just a more expensive version of the Prologue. Because Honda and Acura are the same company, and Acura is the expensive version of Honda. So there you go. So that's what that looks like. And for those who want an electric minivan and aren't waiting for the Volkswagen ID Buzz, Volvo has you covered potentially. They're teasing the EM90, which is going to be an electric minivan. It is going to join the global electric Volvo fleet, which includes the XC40, the C40, the EX90 that they just announced, and the EX30 that they just announced. This will be another one. EM90. I guess M means like multi-person.
Minivan.
Minivan makes more sense. Yeah.
Electric.
Well, I mean, because in Europe it's MPV, like multi-person vehicle or something. Anyway, they're gonna make an announcement, give it all the way on November 12th. So keep an eye on the news, because we'll talk about it. It's expected to be based on the Zeekr 009, which is a Chinese, so for those who don't know, Volvo is owned by the Chinese. It's owned by Geely, and one of Geely's other sub-brands is called Zeekr, and they make products for China and some European stuff now. And they have a minivan called the Zeekr 009, which has 116 kilowatt hour, 140 kilowatt hour battery packs you can choose. The range numbers you see on the screen are NEDC, which are very aspirational, so probably lop a couple hundred kilometers off those to get real life numbers. But between 700 and 822 kilometers in La La Land.
So 500
So like 500 kilometers in real world. But yeah, it makes sense that they would use this eager platform that already exists. It's already been on the road, so they'll just put a new body that's Volvo on it. And Robert's your father's brother. Okay, so now we're into the Tesla corner. Tesla is launching, or they have launched, and you can go on their website right now and buy one. The universal wall connector. So run, don't walk to buy one because they'll probably sell out. But these are super cool. They support J1772 and Max natively. They ship in October, so they'll start shipping in a month. They cost $785 plus tax, and they do 11.5 kilowatts, which is pretty cool. They still have the fancy auto sensing handle thingy where you like push a button and the flap on the car opens, and they have Wi-Fi, and you can like daisy chain 6 of them together and all that fancy Tesla things. But the cool thing is that you don't need an adapter or dongle for any car you ever buy. It's built into the charger, so just like you plug it in and you pull out the one that you want. So that is super cool. So if you're in the market for a new charger, I would strongly recommend getting this one because that'll be future-proof forever. All right, Tesla now.
I was glad I was sitting down. You actually recommended buying Tesla.
The charger, it's a good deal. I am reasonable. Tesla is now billing by kilowatt hour. So we talked about this last year at the end of the year when Measurement Canada announced that they're going to allow this to happen. It's now happened. Turns out Vancouver is the cheapest place in Canada to charge an EV at a Tesla Supercharge. It's 29 cents a kilowatt hour. Toronto is one of the more expensive ones at 48. So drive to Vancouver to charge up.
Well, it comes down to
Welcome to Ontario, where we still use gas on our grid like animals. Yeah, last year, like I mentioned, Measurement Canada made the announcement. So now non-utility companies can bill by the kilowatt hour. So look for more to join. I think Flow's already joined in some places. Depends on where they've rolled it out, but yeah. Raymond.
The other thing they've done, and I think it's on last week, they have time of day different
pricings. Yeah, some markets. So pricing varies by market, and some markets have time of use pricing as well.
Yeah.
So like check your, I don't know how this works. Check your Tesla app for that.
It's in the car.
It's in the car. It'll be, but Raymond says it's in the car. So if you have a Tesla, you know what you're doing. So you'll figure it out. I don't. I drive a real car.
There's the thing. We know it's coming.
That's fine. Just joking. All right, so the V4 supercharger, Raymond, has tap and go, Raymond, so you can use any credit card you want to charge without having to log in, Raymond. So I told you they'll do that, and they did it. So they're there. Vindication is what this looks like.
So California mandated it.
Actually, Europe mandated it too. Yeah, like the UK and stuff did. So supports 350 kilowatt charging speeds, which means it's probably for 800 volts. Which is what we talked about last month. So hopefully this is like the new thing. So you'll be able to show up at a V4 supercharger and just tap a card and not talk to Tesla at all. And they have longer cables to accommodate non-Tesla EVs, us unwashed masses with our weird spots, charging ports. We can just roll up and just group the cables all over the place like we do right now.
And they have the new charging port for CCS combo at Deep River.
Oh, sweet.
But
It's been since last week apparently.
Yeah, it's not active yet, I think, but it should be active.
No, they said
Deep River,
according to Facebook.
Supercharger.
Supercharger in Deep River has the combo CCS combo.
That fills the gap.
Yeah, well,
the gap is gone.
I'm going to North Bay shortly. Just
let us know, Sam. we expect your report next month at our meeting.
I'm still gonna talk about.
So Lee, my neighbor who has 95, he just went to Sudbury and the chargers were working fine, but there was a problem with his car because of recall on.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But the chargers were working fine for the slowest time that I've ever heard all along the way.
Oh,
I read this even Mattawa, that it was already broken in Mattawa.
Yeah, Mattawa's always broken. Don't trust Mattawa. If you're gonna drive north, just don't trust Mattawa. Just pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Charge in Peterborough or no, Pembroke, sorry. Pembroke. Charge up in Pembroke and then make the jump.
So the magic dock that they put in
Deep River, fix that.
It's part of a pilot project that they're doing from between Ottawa and.
Yeah, we talked about this.
Yeah.
You're paying attention.
Well, apparently, from Facebook, as of last weekend, it's operational.
Sweet.
Tesla guys installed it and somebody tried it.
Awesome. So there you go. Adam.
How are us unwashed masses gonna tell the difference between a V3 and a V4?
So apparently the V4 is enormous. So if you go to roll up to a supercharger station and there's a whole bunch of V3s, the V4 will be the chonky boy. Otherwise I have no idea.
Well,
It'll be in a lab.
completely different.
Yeah,
So the V3s are like hollow inside
There you
and the
go.
wire goes like that. And then the V4s are like solid and just big white pillars.
Yeah.
Monoliths, like 2000
Yeah,
white.
but that being said, the V3s that will have that magic dock will support CCS combo anyways.
Yeah, but just if you have an EGMP car, and I know you do not use the Tesla superchargers yet. Yeah, because
You'll still get 50 kilowatts.
yeah.
So it's better than not, my
But
car maxes out at like 60.
But there have been reported issues with the EGMP where they don't play nice with Tesla and it might like not charge at all. So don't count on it yet. They'll fix that, but for now, just
I thought they said explode. I thought they were gonna say
not
explode.
explode. They're not made of gas. All right, here's the sketchy bit of Tesla. So there has to be one negative article. I'm gonna be true to myself. So Electric has reported that Tesla, for whatever reason, is paying, I refuse to call it X, Twitter, or shitter, as you call it, because X's are pronounced sh, and YouTube, just deal with the swearing, okay? I'll beep it out, whatever. So Tesla is now paying shitter $20,000 a year to have an account because they have created a new thing at Twitter called verified organizations that Musk is hoping everyone else joins in on. And the entry cost for this is $1,000 per company for one account. And then if you have associated accounts, you can add, like, or affiliated accounts, it's $50 a month per affiliated account. And people, Electric has noticed that Tesla's been going and creating 13 different friggin' affiliated accounts for a total of $1,600 a month in payments to Twitter. Some of these accounts have only had one tweet ever. Some of them were created back in January and have tweeted once and never tweeted again. There's Tesla AI, Tesla Megapack, Tesla Optimus. They all have accounts. Optimus posted one tweet in January, and that's it. So this is sketchy AF, and who knows what's going on here. And to put it into context, Tesla has 0 other associated accounts on any other social platform. It's only Twitter. So on YouTube and Instagram and all the other ones, they have Twitter, or so they have Tesla, and that's it. But on Twitter, they have 16 or 13 different accounts. That's 13 is all that Electric could find, but there might be more. So it's weird. It's just why? I assume it's just to prop up Twitter.
I mean,
Yeah, 20,000.
yeah, $20,000.
It's a drop in the bucket, right? So I don't like what
Oh, you hate to have the micro in the bucket.
who knows? But like it's weird, right? Like it's weird, is what it is. So who knows? But yeah, whatever.
I think people are
Musk
overthinking.
doing sketchy things is not news.
I mean, he's getting one of his companies to
Bail out
act
on
in
it.
a way that he wants other companies to act. It's internally consistent, like and it's not a crazy amount of money either.
Yeah, so maybe he'll start paying for advertising.
There you go. Or he gets advertising. All right, Raymond, you have the floor. That's it for the news.
Any questions for Mike?
Any questions, comments, concerns? Tommy has questions?
Lots of concerns, but.
Lots of concerns. Mental health concerns are not.
We're not, we're not big enough on YouTube to get on.
EVCO? Yeah, no, we
Yeah.
have like
You
70.
don't even have to figure it out.
We're good. We don't, yeah.
I heard there was a story from like, I think it's EVCO and maybe ChargePoint in the States where they were banning non-manufacturer adapter.
Yeah, so I saw that. I didn't report on it because it's not a thing yet. In 2025, it might be a thing. So a bunch of charging companies have come out to announce that they're not going to support third-party adapters for CCS, going either way, like Tesla to CCS or whatever. There is an argument to be made for that because some of them are cheap Chinesium and might catch fire and don't have the correct locking mechanism so that you could like pull out a hot DC 800 volt plug while it's in the middle of doing its thing and just like rip it out and probably die. So we'll see what happens with this space. But
So
yeah,
The reality of this ban is it's a liability thing.
it's a liability
They
thing.
can't enforce it and.
Yeah.
When it comes to NACS to CCS or vice versa adapters, these are passive adapters. There's actually no way for the station to be able to tell that there's an
Yeah,
adapter
exactly.
plugged into it.
Yeah.
So.
But if your car catches fire when you die, and they can be like, hey, it's in the.
If
terms
something
and
bad happens while you're using one of these adapters, you're probably gonna be on the hook.
Yeah, you'll be on the hook for not only your car and possibly your life, but also the charger if it gets damaged, right? So if you.
Time
And time and all that stuff. So like if you use one of these cheap charging adapters and then you destroy a Tesla supercharger stall, you might have to fork out whatever that costs, which is not a.
So let's be very careful about messaging with this, okay?
Don't buy cheap electrical things.
Yeah, but we should probably avoid talking about things blowing up and all that.
I didn't say blow up. You said electrocute.
And
we're gonna. That's not something.
And the higher wattage, any talk of the GMP platform guys
Not yet.
going to next?
They're still talking about it.
Okay.
I assume they will. I mean, so like I mentioned last month, Hyundai, Kia, and them, they all got together to make a charging network that has NACS. So it makes sense that they'll switch. I'm not worried about that. They're just waiting on the 800 volt.
They're, they don't want to give up their bargaining position.
Yeah.
So if they concede to Tesla right now, then they have no leverage to get Tesla to push forward 800 volt into superchargers.
Yeah.
So as a business, even though to outside it's pretty obvious they're gonna have to move to NACS eventually, they're not gonna publicly admit to it until they have a good deal on the table.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll happen. I'm not worried about it. Everyone's going in 2025 anyway, so there's lots of time for them to be like, hey, surprise.
Cybertruck.
Starting in 2025, your Ioniq 5 will support, right? So
The Cybertruck is 800 or 1,000 volts.
Yeah,
So
we'll see. Yeah, I'm sure it'll happen. So no, not to worry. All
That's
right.
another thing you did put in the news, the fact that the Cybertruck is essentially.
I've been talking about the Cybertruck like every month for months. It hasn't come out.
But it's pretty close.
Sure, it's been close for months.
And we're starting to produce them in
Put up or shut up, Tesla, let's go.
in some quantities, not large quantities, but anyways. Okay, so any more questions about this?
Although I do like Tesla's trolling with the Cybertruck, where they've been wrapping it in Toyota Tundra and
And
F-150 wraps.
you know what?
That's pretty awesome.
I actually had a dream that the Cybertruck looks something like that friggin' wrap. And it looked nicer than the Cybertruck, so I think they should do that because it makes the thing look a lot nicer. But anyways, I digress. So let's get into the past events. So we only had one kilowatts on coffee last month because we were quite busy doing other stuff, right? So we did one on the 5th of August at Chino, Cafe Latte Chino on 10th line. And then the weekend after, we were at the Navan Fair. Mike unfortunately had because of the massive rain we had on a Thursday. Biblical, yeah, I put biblical there. Because I had huge rain on another one and I had to have something bigger on this one. So anyways, lots of rain on the Thursday. And we actually talked to just about nobody until, who was it with you?
Thursday, yeah.
So it was like 6:30 before. we talked to
6:30 PM before we actually talked to anybody. We were set up by what, noon almost, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then it got a bit busy in the evening.
Yeah, it was worth it to be there in the evening, but.
Yeah, but you can see how wet it was. I don't think that's a Thursday even, anyways. But yeah, so we actually got everybody who had a car, electric car, come at the booth. We got them to park around here. So this is, that's Art's car, I think. That's Ryan's car, right? So we added these cars and didn't have to pay for parking. Anyways, gave us more cars and all that, and the F-150 was extremely popular. It was a real magnet for people. So it was great to be able to talk about it.
Did you make the joke about forgetting to install the engine?
No, I didn't.
Missed an opportunity.
Your son did it a couple of times, I think.
There you go.
But that's Sam's car back there. It's 905. So anyways, so that was a pretty good event. Talked to a lot of people. And I think it helped us with this event because this event was really popular. And at Navan, we gave out so many cars and told so many people that we had this event in Barhaven. So We ended up having 75 test drives and 51 test rides for a 4-hour period. That's a heck of a lot. So I had lots of cars too, so it was great, great event in Barrhaven. So the local councillor was there and he was promoting it too. So so that really helped make it a successful event. So I'm very happy about that one. We had a corn roast, which you see, we have lots of rain here, but it was biblical in the other one. So anyways, it was at Petrie Island. This is more or less a last minute thing. And this is Marie-France Lalonde, who's our MP in Orleans. That's her car. She got it about 6 months ago. So we put her car beside her booth. And we talked to a few people, not very many. It was rainy, so it wasn't the best attendance that you could have had at this thing. But yeah, it was not bad. Not super great. Good corn though, good hot dogs and hamburgers. Last weekend, so on Saturday, we were on Bank Street for Capital Pride. And that's our booth there. You see Craig there. Craig is, what are you doing there? You're meditating or something?
I don't know.
Anyways, lots of people.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of people. So, and apparently the Sunday would have been busier. But Sunday had the parade though, so it would have not been busy during the parade, I imagine, but a lot busier after.
We should have put Craig's car in there.
We didn't have space.
We didn't have
Yeah,
space.
well, it turns out the two booths beside us were empty, so we could have put his car there, we had the space, but we didn't pay for it and all that, so anyways. But yeah, your purple car would have been perfect for the occasion, so anyways.
Next year.
So, yeah, so we talked to a lot of people and had some pretty good conversations. A few weirdos that were,
My favorite was the guy who proudly showed me his flip phone and says he's never emailed in his life.
Must be unemployed.
and there's a few people who told us that they would stick to gas forever, so anyways.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so if that's what if you're there, then okay.
Yeah, there's always these people, right? This is really outside of our bubble, right? So for those who don't know, we're trying to reach outside of the environmental bubble, right? And trying to get people who are less informed. This is really out of the bubble because you have all sorts of people in here, but some know a lot about EVs, others know nothing, right? So Alan's daughter was there, so she knows everything about EVs, apparently, right, Alan?
Absolutely.
She told me her father told her everything she knew, so anyways, everything that he knew, but anyways.
Raising them right.
Hey?
Raising them right.
Exactly, so anyways, upcoming events, so we have a few more events coming up. The next meeting, obviously, September 25th here again. Oh geez, what happened here?
I don't know, this is you.
Crap, I missed it. I forgot to finish it and I got distracted. Sorry about that. So we'll put this on our website. These are the next Kilowatt and Coffee. We have three next month, right? So we have one September 2nd, Three Sisters.
The 16th is it's in Barrhaven, not Barrhaven. Yeah, Barrhaven at the Cupcake Room.
Okay.
So it'll be at the Cupcake. I won't be there. I have other things to do.
And then there's another one later.
And then the last day of September, there's one. And it's out in Navin. It's at that, we went there last year in the fall. It's that cute little coffee shop.
Yeah, okay, where we use the Ionic to.
Yeah, where I boosted Alan's car with my Ionic, where I charged him.
Yeah.
So I can charge up Sparky again, Alan, by the way, if you want.
Lots of fun.
So yeah, so those are the three locations.
Yeah, anyway, so yeah.
They'll be on the website and on Facebook, so.
Yeah, so we'll set it up. I just forgot to finish that. I was, anyways, doing lots of stuff today. The next event we have, fairly small event here, Westport Watercolors. So this is Land Art Developments that have a net zero community. So all the houses are net zero and they're encouraging people to put solar and put car chargers and buy EVs and all that. So we'll go there to show some vehicles they're inviting a whole bunch of people to see the development. So we have enough cars right now. So, if you're really interested, you're more than welcome to join us. But we do have enough people at this point. So, Fridays for Future, this is not an EVCO event, but I do want to talk about it because, many of us are passionate about reducing usage of fossil fuels. There's a big demonstration for, as part of Fridays for Future, so Greta Thunberg and company. This is happening all over the world, not just in Ottawa. So September 15th, 1 o'clock, it's a Friday on Parliament Hill. You could pre-register to, so they know how many people will be there. Well, I'll put the link in the, if you go to fridaysforfuture.org, Ottawa.org, you'll see it, but this thing here, the QR code will bring you to there. So please register on Eventbrite if you want to go. I will definitely be there. Next thing, this is the big event. So September 23rd, Lansdowne Park. So from 10 to 4, like everybody probably remembers, we'll have a booth, static display, a bunch of dealers and test drives. So
That's on Saturday.
it's on Saturday, yeah. So so right now, in terms of dealers starting to make some progress, Tesla will be there, and they will. So maybe I should say it on my recording, but they'll be paying. So so normally they don't pay for events; they're going to be paying. So and we may have some of their cars as test drive cars. So right now the plan is they'll have 4 cars, 2 will be doing test drives, and 2 will be static display. We're gonna have Volvo, very keen on being there. What else are we gonna have? I can't remember the other ones, but I'm still talking to a bunch of them to see what we could do to get more dealers to show up. Okay, so I'm expecting more to sign.
Audi's dealer is right there.
Sorry?
Audi's dealer is right there on the ground.
Park Motors, yeah.
I sent him an email 3 times.
They're
response yet, so I will.
But they often have the electricity out in front of their store.
Yeah, yeah. So I'd like them to participate, but if they're not gonna participate, I can't force them, right? So anyways, we have quite a few cars signed up. We could always use more. So an EVCO, for example, would be great.
I'm gonna try, yeah.
So, right, so that's one that we don't have at this point.
Well, Ahmed brings us EV6. Literally in the picture.
Yeah, but I don't know. Oh, yeah, maybe.
But yeah,
I'm not sure if he signed up.
he might, I don't know if he's gonna see that weekend, yeah.
Well, we'll try to get him too, right? So,
2 EV6s.
They were better, I mean, the more EV6s and EV5s you have, the better.
Yeah.
absolutely. If you could do test drives with one of them, even better, right? So-
Yeah, GV60 as well. I know one of our people has a GV60.
Yeah,
Well, like.
very nice. The Genesis EVs are very, very nice. They're really nice.
represent.
So, and actually, you know, the guy from Tony Graham that I used to.
Yeah, that guy.
work with, he's now at Genesis.
Interesting.
So.
Has he got fed up with the bureaucracy of Toyota?
So we'll talk about it offline. I think I know what happened, but anyways,
The new Genesis dealer down at Hunt Club has a Flow 50 kilowatt charger right out in front. They're looking to. They got some EVs coming in too, I think.
They do, yeah.
yeah, no, they sell EVs for sure, right? And Genesis, I believe there's only one dealer in Ottawa, right? I think it's.
Yeah,
there's only
there's-
one.
There's the one being built down at Hunt Club in Prince of Wales. which
Yeah, it's
is,
pretty
like,
well
almost
done.
finished.
Yeah, it's pretty well done. I passed in front of it the other day, yesterday or the day before, and it's pretty well done. So, yeah, so he's there, this guy that I know, and, I'm working with him to try to get the Dilawri, it's a Dilawri dealership. So I'm trying to get the Dilawri, Kia and Hyundai also on board to bring cars, okay? Dealing with dealerships is very interesting, okay? Given that we're recording this, I won't say more, but it's
Discussion time.
it's friggin' complicated. Okay, so this, I believe, is almost the last slide. So for anybody who would like to, normally we give we allow people to show up for one meeting for free, but we hope people will sign up as members afterwards. We don't have very much budget. You'll see that in January when you talk about, when you show the financials, we don't have much money. And right now, the money really what it's used for at this point is to finance things like the insurance and things of that nature. We're a very low budget, very low cost organization. But we do need a bit of cash.
We're a lean
Very
organization.
lean, very lean. So anyways, if you go to our website and there's a membership tab there and you could register there, it's $23 if you pay with PayPal. Okay, next thing is now this is 72, but I think we're at 78 subscribers. So I would encourage you to go to our YouTube channel and point people to it. So if people have questions about EVs, We have a few things here, like introduction to electric vehicles, which is quite popular. And the French version of it, so Mike did this one, I did this one, and we have other stuff like our monthly meetings.
And they're on playlists. So we have different playlists. So if you have like a specific topic, you can find it easier with the playlist.
Yeah, so, you know, if people are looking for information and you don't know the answers, or you just, it's an email or something, you don't want to answer 20 questions in a row in email, just send them a link or something, and it might make it easier, right? Okay? Any questions? No? Roundtable.
Okay, wait, before we do that. Gotta do the outro.
Yes.
So if you're watching online on YouTube, this is where your video ends. If you want to join us for the roundtable live or virtually, we do that live. So while we're filming, so you have to show up at the meeting for that. So stick around if you're here, and otherwise, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next month.